in the media.
This is breaking news. It actually came out while we were in the commercial break. But we just learned that ABC News said it's pulling the Jimmy Kimmel live show off of the air indefinitely because of comments he made on his show Monday night about Charlie Kirk. A spokesperson said to CNBC, Jimmy Kimmel Live will be preempted indefinitely. Indefinitely. Now, that doesn't mean he's been fired or canceled. It just means they're going to figure out how to handle this after what it is he said. I'm pulling the sound right now. We're going to do this live, so, unless you already have it, because we're literally pulling this in the moment. Here's what happened on Monday night.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty.
Yeah,
He clearly didn't hear the question.
He's at the fourth stage of grief, construction. Demolition, construction. This is not how an adult grieves the murder of someone he called a friend. This is how a 4-year-old mourns a goldfish.
So I will say, of all the things Jimmy Kimmel has said, it's probably not in even the top 10 of most offensive and callous things, but it's still pretty gross. And specifically this idea that, they tried to do their best to the MAGA gang to say the shooter wasn't one of them. He wants you to think, and we talked about this in the last hour. He wants you to think that Tyler Robinson is a conservative. And so now we just got in, again, literally, this is all coming in this moment. Nexstar, which is the ABC broadcast affiliate, saying they're removing Jimmy Kimmel indefinitely after he joked about the assassination. In a statement, in a press release, they said they strongly object to recent comments made by Mr. Kimmel concerning the killing of Charlie Kirk and will replace the show with other programming in its ABC-affiliated markets. So this is specifically Nexstar saying, yeah, we're done, at least for now. Andrew Alford, the president of Nexstar's broadcasting division, Mr. Kimmel's comments about the death of Mr. Kirk are offensive and insensitive at a critical time in our national political discourse, and we do not believe they reflect the spectrum of opinions, views, or values of the local communities in which we are located. Continuing to give Mr. Kimmel a broadcast platform in the communities we serve is simply not in the public interest at the current time, and we have made the difficult decision to preempt his show in an effort to let cooler heads prevail as we move toward the resumption of respectful, constructive dialogue. That takes guts to do something like that. And again, I'm sure this will become immediately one of those First Amendment arguments, which this has nothing to do with the First Amendment. Except unless, I suppose you look at this and say, well, actually, these networks have the right to not air this kind of drivel that is intentionally divisive. Intentionally divisive. And again, what makes me so mad about this is that it's not like anything that Jimmy and others are saying are done in good faith. They are telling you intentionally that Tyler Robinson is a conservative because they don't want to take any responsibility for the culture that has said it's okay to celebrate the assassination of Charlie Kirk. They created, or at least helped to create, a culture that accepts this, that jokes about it. And they don't want to have to take any responsibility for that culture. They didn't pull the trigger, but they helped create a culture that says it's okay to make jokes about someone's assassination. And it comes from a place of hate. It comes from a place of hate. And that's the thing about Jimmy Kimmel and Stephen Colbert and Seth Meyers. That's a problem here, is that they're not trying to be funny. They gave up on that. They're trying to make political points. They're not even oftentimes trying to frame it in a comedic way, especially Stephen Colbert. He doesn't put it into joke format. They want to do MSNBC shows. Awesome. Go do it on MSNBC, or excuse me, MS Now, or Bankrupt Soon, which is what it's going to be called soon. So I'm shocked that ABC made this announcement, and I have to imagine it was due in large part because they heard from Nexstar and maybe some of the other affiliates. I'm betting that was behind this. Or maybe ABC News is looking at this and says, man, we just have one of our reporters romanticizing the relationship the murderer had with his trans girlfriend, and now we've got Jimmy Kimmel pretending that this guy is a conservative. This is not a good look for us. This is not a good look at all. But, it's just, I'm not shocked by anything anymore that comes out of left-wing media. But I suppose I'm surprised that ABC News made the right call here. This is a call not meant even to punish someone for speech as much as it is to, in the words of the Nexstar broadcast president, to let cooler heads prevail. You had a political assassination, and that you don't understand these kinds of jokes are completely inappropriate and incredibly divisive. What do you think is going to happen if you continue to divide people after an assassination? Not in an attempt, but an actual assassination. What do you think is going to happen? And a responsible broadcaster would say that. It would go through their internal filter. Certainly one that's on broadcast television. I get that comedians are going to comedian, right? And if you go to a show, a stand-up comedy show for a comic who's known for shock value comedy, I'm not mad at that. I might find it disgusting if they joked about it, but I get it. You're not supposed to get that on ABC News at night. You're not supposed to get that. And this was an opportunity to course correct, and they're course correcting. Good for them. Seriously, good for them. I didn't see this coming at all. In fact, we weren't even going to talk about his comments on today's show. I saw them. They were trending yesterday. They were trending again this morning. And I said to him, why give him the time of day? Well, ABC News is now pulling Jimmy Kimmel Live off the air indefinitely. I'm assuming he'll be back on Monday. He'll try to do his mea culpa. And we'll respond to it and call it out for what it unfortunately will likely be, which is he didn't learn a lesson. If anything, he's going to get angrier. And the people on his side are going to dig in and claim that he's the actual victim here.
Be like, I'm sorry, but not sorry.
Yeah, it's sorry, not sorry. And it's going to be completely rejected. And this could be the end of Jimmy Kimmel if he keeps it up. It could be. Look, I imagine his show was really expensive too, like late night. And we know that his ratings aren't the best. And so you combine being really, really expensive, doing a type of show that is kind of just not interesting to people anymore. Just the whole idea of late night, at least in this format, is not interesting. The late night shows that have been doing well, or the late night show that's been doing well, is Gutfeld. And I think some of it is because of the lack of conservative competition at night in that kind of format, and conservatives generally aren't all that funny. Present company excluded. So I think he benefits from that. But it's also a really good show, but it's also different. It's not about the celebrity stuff that I just don't think people care about anymore. Who wants to see some of these stupid interviews? where they don't do anything. They're there to plug a movie. Everything is staged. It's all scripted out. It's not interesting.
Whenever I see commercials for them, like if I'm watching a football game, I'm like, I don't even know who any of these people are.
Well, even the people that you do. So Harrison Ford coming up onto like, okay, who cares? What is he going to say that's going to be interesting? He's going to talk about the movie. And the reality is, if I was interested in learning more about the movie he's in, I can go on YouTube and download and watch all sorts of things without having to watch a boring G-rated interview that's, scripted to the point of absurdity. It's very rare that it's not even like they even make news in any of these things. The only time we talk about them is when they say something completely outrageous and everyone gets mad at them. It's just boring. It's sanitized. So they should just kill it all. Get rid of it. There's got to be something better to put on there. Why not reinvent late night the way Greg Gutfeld is doing, but do it in your own way on CBS or ABC, NBC. I don't care. At least be funny again. And man, did they just butcher comedy, these folks. So again, if you're just joining us, the breaking news is that Jimmy Kimmel has been pulled off air indefinitely as a result of his quote-unquote joke about mourning the death of Charlie Kirk and claiming that he's one of us, quote-unquote. He's MAGA, we're told. And it's interesting because we said this last week. I always, when I talk about stories that have not been completely verified, I always, I give myself a little bit of room to be wrong, or I explain that we don't know, but here's what we're thinking. Like I try to do things that way. From the beginning, we were pretty clearly, aligned with, he's a liberal. This idea that he was a conservative, Tyler Robinson, just on its face never made sense. And you knew that the people who were trying to spread that didn't even believe it, because immediately, like the Harry Sissons of the world, or Victor Shee, whichever one of those annoying brats, was out there saying, see, he's not an immigrant. He's not a person of color. He is a white male from a conservative family. A conservative, okay. Conservative, what does that have to do with anything? I'm hardcore conservative. My dad was hardcore liberal. I don't know. What does that mean? So because you come from a conservative family, the implication was supposed to be, well, that means he's a conservative. But of course, they didn't want to just say that he's a conservative. They wanted to say the family was conservative because they knew he was liberal. And they were giving themselves an out when they did that. It was it was so transparent what it was they were doing. So transparent. And what I guess I'd never understand, regardless of who the person is, whether they die by a murder or they die as a result of old age, if I disagree with it, how many times have people died, political figures or controversial figures, where sometimes we mention the death, but I don't do like this long monologue or even short sentence that criticizes what they like. I just don't ever feel the need to do that, right? Joe Biden is going to die within my lifetime, of course, unless something tragic happens to me. I'm not going to come on after his death and say, the worst president that we've ever had, a guy who never had any control of the White House, because that's just wrong. How do these people don't understand that it's just wrong? Is that just a weird wiring thing, or are these people so far gone with their hate they don't understand what it is they're doing?